It's the Funny Comics Fan Club.
Hello and welcome to the Funny Comics Fan Club.
Or is it?
No, it is.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Who are you?
Who am
Meant
I?
to be.
I'm meant to be Dr. Mark Hibbett. Who are you?
I'm supposed to be non-Dr. John Dredge. This week I think we should rename the Funny Comics Fan Club the Plug Sports and Social Club.
Rightio. Are you going to cover the sports or the social side of things?
I'll do the sports section.
I'll be social.
No, I hate sport, actually.
I hate being social.
We got that wrong. We're doing plug.
Plug we're doing this time. Yes, fantastic.
Getting right to the point of the matter.
Yes, because last time we looked at Cheeky. In theory, this is two quite similar characters. They've both been spun off, plucked from a gang. So what did you think?
How do I think it compared to Cheeky? Chalk and cheese.
Chalk and cheese.
Chalk and cheese.
Right,
Cheese
yeah.
and chalk.
Cheese
put
and
it
chalk,
another
innit?
way.
Yeah.
Well, Cheeky Weekly, I think, was the greatest comic that we've done so far.
Right.
And this one wasn't
No,
really. I
it
mean,
wasn't.
I have to be honest with you, it's a bit thin.
It is. I mean,
20 pages, that's it.
and it was quite expensive as well, wasn't it?
Well, it said online the Plug comic was never a big hit possibly because at 9p it was too expensive. That doesn't sound very expensive. You know, these days I could just about afford a copy.
Probably, yeah.
But then it said compared to other DC Thompson comics at the time, which were priced at around 5p. But like Marvel and all that was like 12p.
Yeah, well, I think if you're getting imported Marvel comics, they're around that much. So those were full colour, a glossy cover, 32 pages of action and excitement.
Okay.
But it's that sort of printing that's the issue, isn't it? Because all the DC Thompson comics that we looked at have been printed on newspaper, usually only in one colour. Whereas Plug, it looks fabulous because it's full colour. It's Roto Grove or something similar like that. So it looks really nice. This one we're looking at here is nearly 50 years old, but it's very well preserved. Like when we looked at TV comic, that was a similar sort of thing. So with this one, the colour's really nicely done. It's printed right to the edges.
I mean, it looks nice colour-wise. You've got a colour front and back. You've got Plug on the back with a full-page comic strip. That's where he resides, generally speaking. And he's on the cover as well. I mean, these days, I'm not quite sure about this cover.
It is a little bit racist.
The thing is, what it is, I think it's reflecting the popularity of a TV show at the time called Kung Fu.
Yes.
With David Carradine. And that was a big Saturday night entertainment for all the family type show.
Yeah.
It ran in, for quite a few years, as far as I know, certainly around 1978. This edition of Plug is from May the 20th, 1978. It came out every Saturday. We were all off school. We'd go down the newsagent and there'd be Plug if you wanted to buy it, which I'm not quite sure how many people did buy it. I remember buying a few of them. I bought the first one.
I think I bought the first one as well, yeah.
Maybe it was advertised on telly or something.
Well, it was advertised in I used to get the Beano around this time, so I think the Beano would have told me it was available. But yeah, I remember it as being like it's like TV comic, and it's sort of weird because again, it doesn't look like a normal comic. It's I think the luxuriance of the printing of that. And as you say, the thinness of it, it doesn't feel quite the same as other comics, does it?
No, this feels like there was a comic around 1980 called TV Tops, and that was a lot of that was comic strips and photo strips. Obviously all about TV in 1980. But now I don't know. To me, it feels a little bit on the thin side and slightly sort of as if it's about to fall to pieces.
Yeah.
But then again, this thing is 50 years old.
Yeah.
50 years old.
Yes, I'm slightly older than this comic, and I feel like I'm falling to pieces. Alas, not like you think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in black and white. But
there's an image on the front that you would not put there now. It's basically meant to be a Chinese version of Plug, and he's quoting that it was the start of karate, wasn't it? Where the master said, "When you take this pebble from my hand, then you'll be." I don't know. Then you'll be the Karate Man. That's something I can't remember exactly how it went.
I think you're thinking of Karate Man.
Karate
which
Man,
wasn't quite as successful.
And he always used to call David Carradine. His character was always called. He would refer to him as Grasshopper.
Okay, see, I don't remember it very well. I know there was a Kung Fu strip in Looking around this time, but I don't think I ever watched it. I remember thinking it was too long and a bit boring. But David carried on, didn't he?
He did.
So on the front, you've got Plug as a sort of martial arts kung fu master, and he's got a rabbit with him, and the rabbit is chopping a carrot in half, and he says, "How's that for a karate chop?"
I think that's quite good.
It's not too bad.
It's not too
actually.
bad.
Not too bad. Yeah.
But it tells us something about the comic, doesn't it? Because this is him doing some martial arts. And the funny thing about Plug is it seems to be all about sports.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the theme, because I read the final episode of the Bash Street Kids before Plug comic came in, showed Plug taking part in some sports.
So that was like a quick, we'll put him in a sports comic. We better do something about that.
Yeah. And then this comic it's got loads of rugby in it for some reason, and it's got golf and all sorts of things. That why on earth would a child want to read about golf?
Exactly. Yeah.
We've seen it before. I mean, clearly people who write and draw comics like golf, or they did in the 70s. Because we saw that terrible Impressions one, didn't we? Where we
Mickey Mimic.
Mickey Mimic. That was it. Yeah.
I really like Plug as a character. You can see why he was the spin-off character, because he literally stood out. When you see him, he stands out. He's this tall, gangly, lanky sort of twit, really.
He is. I like gangly, though. That's quite a nice composite word.
Gankly. He's very gankly.
He's very gankly.
In the Beano, I thought he was meant to be a bit of a misfit, outsider, nerdy sort of twit.
Well,
or was it?
I think the idea was that he thought he was gorgeous and beautiful.
Yeah, he's always doing that. Maybe he didn't get much to do, because there was so many Bash Street Kids.
There was 8 other Bash Street Kids. There were 30 of them now, aren't there? I suppose.
There's hundreds of them now.
Yeah.
But they sort of became one a lot of the time in those Beano strips. So maybe he didn't really get much of a sense of who he was.
Maybe. I mean, I could probably, if forced at gunpoint, I could probably name all 9 of the Bash Street Kids as were. But some of them were like Herbert, he was short-sighted. That was a joke about him.
So it was a one joke.
Yeah, Toots was the girl. Danny was the leader.
Because Plug Ugly is a phrase, was a phrase.
So he was the ugly one who thought he was handsome.
I'm going to read his vital statistics out.
Oh, that's good. So this comes from the Plug Sports and Social Club.
So this is the leaflet that you would get if you joined this club, which I would have done if I had any money at the time. Name, Percival Proudfoot Plugsley. Was he ever called that before this comic started?
I don't think he was ever called that.
This is all down to someone called Ian Gray. Apparently it was edited by a man called Ian Gray. Plug's address, Plugsley Villa, Earwaggle Avenue, Plugton. So he's not in Beano Town.
He's moved from Beano Town.
He's no longer there. That's the thing, because when this comic ended, it ended up in the Beezer.
The Beezer, that's right.
So Plug was presumably carrying on in 2 comics at this point. It says here, age 12. He's 12 years old in this. Height 4 foot 23 inches. Weight and C. It says here. Hair some. Eyes 2. Any unusual features? Very. Biceps none. Chest pigeon. Ear circumference 14 inches from ear to ear. There you go. You didn't know that, did you?
I didn't know that. It's funny that, isn't it? Because when you join the Dennis and Manny's fan club, you get the badge and all that sort of stuff, and you get the secret code words. And here they seem to have thought, we've got to put something in this thing. What on earth are we going to put in? And the answer seems to be any old crap. Because
it's just like the sporting thing is, I can't really see why they did that. Maybe it was just to make it different, or
maybe, yeah.
I'm sure there was no stories where he was ever a sporting champion before this.
No, but then maybe they just thought, kids like humour comics, kids also like sports comics. Let's put them together,
like Roy the Rovers.
Like Roy the Rovers.
Shoot.
Probably it. Oh, Shoot. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
there was a fair few of them.
But I wanted to draw your attention to talking about. So we've already identified the fact that he's not living in Beano Town, but there is continuity here, because on the back page, the strip Plug. His dog appears, and his dog is called Pug. And his dog Pug appears in Pup Parade in the Beano. So that is excellent work there. Well done, the writer and artist of Plug comic, because they have kept in the fact that he's got a dog called Pug. They've also introduced another pet, Chunky Monkey, who has never been mentioned before.
And he looks a bit like Plug.
There's a lot going on with him, isn't there, Chunky Monkey?
The Plug comic strip in this issue is quite good. I quite liked it. It had quite a lot going on. It was a beginning, a middle, and an end. You could follow it. You knew what was going on, and there's a good sense of silliness about it. And you think, yeah, this guy's a bit of a star.
The colouring of it is gorgeous, isn't it? And there's effort has gone into this.
The first panel looks really nice.
There's some sunshine coming out the back of his head, isn't it? It looks they're taking advantage of the fact they can have this full colour.
It's nicely done. Yeah.
I think there's a good joke, I thought, where there's another dog appears and he's labelled as a crossbreed, and the dog says, "Grr, I'm cross."
Yeah, we can accept that joke as a reasonably amusing. It was a nice touch. Put it on the back. so the comic ends well.
And if you're turning around in the news age, you say, "Oh, that's good."
Yeah, you can read that in a shop. You're going to probably have a look at it and might even buy it.
But I want to say the Chunky Monkey, who was never mentioned before, Plug, he disappeared once a Plug strip stopped in the Bees. Chunky Monkey did not appear in the Bash Street Kids until the year 2015. And I think we're getting a picture here that over the past 10 years, I think the people who write and draw the Beano are a bit like this. They go like, "Oh, let's bring Chunky Monkey back." So Plug introduced Chunky Monkey, said, "Here is my monkey. His name is Chunky Monkey." And it's like, wow, there you go. Bit of continuity there. Well done, everybody.
Yeah, a bit of a deep dive there. Brilliant.
So, yeah, I thought that was worth mentioning. That was good stuff.
So let's delve into the comic. Well, so it starts off, I think that's about all we can say. It starts off.
Yeah.
This.
So you've got Huzu. I mean, we're not going to spend much time with this.
We're not going to spend much time on Huzu, I'm afraid. Only there's a mistake in the spelling, and as there's only about 50 words in the whole thing, it's a bit of a major error.
And also, it's on 2 pages, and because it's not been done properly on 2 pages, there has to be a big sign saying, "Read this way."
Why are they doing that? Yeah, just to explain. Yeah, it says "read this way," and then it points across the page, so the story goes across the page rather than down, which is normally the case. I just found that slightly annoying. Why have they done that?
I don't know. Maybe it was supposed to be on 2 pages, not facing each other.
Someone got it wrong, maybe.
Yeah, but there are a couple of odd things in this, aren't there? Because at one point, his father is trying to open a drawer upstairs, and it specifically says, "Meanwhile, upstairs," when suddenly an elephant creeps up behind him and startles him. Surely you would have heard an elephant coming up the stairs. I would have thought.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I would have thought. The strip is called Huzu. Every week, Hugh's talking to his animals. And in the first panel, he says to them, "Cheer up, lads. What's wrong?" And a gigantic rabbit says, "We hate being cooped up in cages, Hugh." And you think, how long has this been going on that they've only just mentioned they don't actually like being kept in a zoo?
Yeah,
and what were the implications of this for moving forward? Was it then later called Hugh's Safari Park? Or maybe Hugh's Returning Animals to the Wild?
Yeah, I don't think anyone took them up on that.
No, that's my pitch, DC Thompson.
What I found odd was just like, you get a lot of these little words in the top left-hand corner of the panels, things like "suddenly." Okay, I can go with that. "Shortly." Yeah, fine. "Meanwhile, upstairs." Okay, yeah, slight problem that you've pointed out, but generally I can understand that. "Presently." What? What's that?
That's how comics work. People who put that in.
Presently.
Yeah.
I've never used that in my life. What does it mean? Less than soon, but longer than shortly?
Yeah. It means pursuant of that occurring, doesn't it? But it's like
pursuant of that occurring. They should have put that in. Then I would have understood what was going on.
But the idea is it goes from one panel to the next panel. It's like, yeah, that's how comics work. One panel happens, and then conventionally, the next panel happens just after it.
You might as well have just put "now."
Yeah. Also, you don't need another one shortly. It's like going, well, yes, and then just then. It's like, well,
then suddenly.
If I don't understand how a comic works, I mean, you've had to put "read this way" to tell me how comics work at this point.
It's got "just then."
Just then, yeah.
Yeah, we knew this just then. We're not idiots. Plug comic. Anyway, moving on. So now we come to the second best page in the whole comic, in my opinion, in no one else's opinion. Join the Plug Sports and Social Club.
We've established that it's specifically for people who want to know how tall the lead character is. That's some of the vital information you get from this.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I love clubs. I love comic clubs. So I was really intrigued by this. And you've got a nice picture of Plug. He's wearing a Plug Club hat and vest, it says here.
It does say vest. Why does it say T-shirt? It's not a vest.
Copyright issues.
The T-shirt corporation would have said.
Yeah. You can't use that again. But Plug is saying, "Be smart. You could win this Super Goon cap and vest." Okay. What do they mean? Super Goon. What do you mean?
Why do they keep saying goon throughout this?
The word goon keeps occurring for no reason through this comic. He's not a goon. We don't even know what a goon is anyway.
Does it mean he's gankly in some way?
If it said gankly,
I mean, it'll be fine.
We'll understand.
Yeah.
Oh. But this Super Goon cap and vest, forget it, Plug comic. Don't use that ludicrous word for no reason. And it says here, you could win this Super Goon cap and vest by sending a letter, a joke, a cartoon, or a drawing, perhaps. It sounds like they're unsure of what you should be doing here. First of all, they said they were really confident at the start. Join the club, right? Well, you could send a drawing in, perhaps. Go forth and be plugnacious, for goodness sake.
Be sporting and social. That's what they need to be. Yeah. You goons.
He's neither. Plug is neither sporting nor sociable. I'm sorry, but you could, if you join, what you have to do is send 35p postal order to Dundee, and you get quite a few things. You get a lapel badge, a sew-on badge, and a fabulous folding sports chart. No picture of that, so I've no idea what that is. I looked online. There's no sign of a plug vest or cap anymore.
You thought people would be proud of it and still wearing it, wouldn't you?
I wonder how many people joined this thing. I know everybody joined the Beano one, but the Plug Club is one page only, and there's only like 4 letters on it. That's it.
Yeah, and one of those letters is, shall we say, suspect to say the least, isn't it? This one, Lindsay Fowler. May I read this?
Go ahead, sir.
Dear Plug, once when I was out at night, I heard a towny owl Sorry, let me try that again.
He was in town.
I had a towny owl. Yeah, he was drunk, hanging around outside Ritzy's.
Yeah.
One of those. That's right. I heard a tawny owl screeching. Of course, fair enough. So far already, can't we? I answered back.
Okay, yeah, I can see that happening.
Did you? And the owl flew over and landed beside me.
I'm not sure about that bit.
Really?
That's a bit.
It just goes to show humans can talk to animals and birds.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for sorting that out. Yeah.
I think humans can talk to birds. Lindsay Fraser of Garlock Head, wherever that is.
You great garlic head. Yeah.
But it's like, what?
I know, yeah.
No, you didn't.
It's a great letter, isn't it? Because it's so stupid. So all the experimentation and all the research that's been done, might as well have forgotten about it because Lindsay Fraser knows.
Lindsay Fraser sorted it out for us. Although, to be fair, it does actually say, it just goes to show that humans can talk to animals and birds. Well, that's factually accurate, isn't it? I can go and talk to an animal or bird wherever. If I find one, there were swans nearby. I'll go and have it.
You can have a conversation with a swan?
No, I could not have a conversation.
Actually, no. You could talk to it.
I could talk to it. The swan would look at me
askance
in contempt.
Yeah.
Yes, askance and contemptuously.
You're right. So, in some ways, Lindsay's got a point.
She has. I take it all back.
In other ways, she's just lying out of her flaming back teeth. But there's some quite nice. There's a nice cartoon drawing here from Suzanne Cuff of Paul. She might be listening. That was entirely my mistake. But she's drawn a nice picture of a dog in the shape of a gun, and a pigeon made out of wood. I like that drawing. I think it deserves to be on here. It deserves a cap and vest.
A super good cap and vest. Indeed.
Well, I'm not sure about it. But the plug and social. I mean, I like the look of the badges. I like the look of the T-shirt. It's just strange that none of them seem to be online anywhere at all. They've all been lost in the mists of time. Unlike the Dennis the Menace stuff, which everybody's still got, it seems to me.
And my question is, what happens if you're a member of one of these clubs and the comic goes out of business? Do you get transferred to the Dennis the Menace fan club? What do you do?
Yeah, do they send you back your 35p postal order?
Yeah, or do they say like, well, you remember for a year, so we're going to send you back 12.5 new pence post, something like that?
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? I'm fascinated by fan clubs. I think someone should do a proper investigative program about fan clubs.
I used to be in the Bell and Sebastian fan club, and this was in the 90s. And what you had to do was you had to send them some second-class stamps to join, and then they would use those second-class stamps to send you back information. But then just after I joined, 2 things happened. Bell and Sebastian became a lot more famous, and also the internet. And everyone like, we don't need to send things out. We can just send you an email, can't we now?
Yeah, it's all changed now.
So what I'm saying is that Bell and Sebastian owe me about 3 stamps.
Now we come on to a page called The Band Shees. The Band Shees. It says here, fresh from their successful tour of Mars.
And what is the premise of this?
Well, it's 3 creatures, presumably from Mars, who are musicians, and they're a band, and this is what happens on their journeys.
Yes, this is the Welsh leg of their tour that we're on as well this week, aren't we?
Yeah, so they go to Wales, and there's all these wailing noises, you see. And I thought, well, as a support, they should have got Bob Marley and the Wailers, but it's not on here. And they turn up for a gig in Cardiff Arms Park. They sit there, and the audience seems to be made up of Welsh Rugby League supporters who don't like their music, and they immediately start chasing them around.
Well, I think these Welsh people, one of whom is wearing a miner's helmet because they're Welsh people, and they're angered because the singer says, this must be the Pontypridd front row.
Is that...
And that seems to infuriate them.
I
don't know. It's to do with rugby. Again, it's something to do with rugby. I don't understand what on earth's going on here. But that infuriates them. So then the
Yeah.
monsters run off somewhere, and being in Wales, what happens is,
They meet Harry Seacombe.
yeah,
How many kids knew who Harry Seacombe was in 1978?
I don't
I
know.
can't see that bit, but because it's Wales, he's in this comic strip. Badly drawn. I mean, they have to see it, they have to say it's Harry Seacombe.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you'd have no idea. And he's singing the Ying Tom song. I mean, I love the Goons at this point. Another good mention of Goon. I mean, that was a big thing for me as a kid, but most of the people in my school would have not had any idea what the Goons was.
no,
But here he is singing the Ying Tom song in the middle of this cartoon strip from 1978.
I do quite like the fact that then at the end of it they have to run away and they say, "Let's beat it to Liverpool." The joke is, so this is the Mersey beat, another current reference point for the kids. They're referring to me from about 14 years behind.
Well, I looked into the band She's,
Oh yes,
and it turned out that the name of one of the characters is Zappa. How many kids in 1978? I mean, I don't know.
it's quite. I mean,
Maybe
I
it
guess it
was
sounds like a space name, doesn't it?
Zappa, yeah, but peculiar. And then I also found out that if you wanted to, if you had a little song, you could send it in, and they might print it
Oh, brilliant!
on this page. That was a nice
That's
little touch.
I like the fact that their road manager is smoking in the van. So there's some research gone into this. Like, this is how bands work. There's a road manager. He's smoking a pipe, fair enough, but still.
Yeah, so there's a lot of character to it. It's slightly strange,
Yeah,
but there's nothing wrong with being slightly strange.
apparently not. No.
From Lone Star Products comes 4 new models in their Kings of the Road range. They are all hard-wearing and each has a special feature. For instance, the cement truck has a drum stroke mixer which tilts to discharge its load. The others in this series, apart from the breakdown tow truck above, are a milk tanker and a farm truck.
Ooh, I think I'm going to faint.
How exciting
How
is
exciting
that?
is that?
Moving on,
Well, the next one we were going to talk about was this Gum strip,
you go for it, Mark. You go
which
for it.
I just thought this looks good. So it's drawn by Albert Holroyd, who we've seen before in the Sparky comic, I think, drawing Hungry Horace, and it's basically an English version of Asterix. There's 2 characters. These are in Roman times. These are 2 ancient Brits from, I think, Lancaster or somewhere nearby there. Gum and his uncle Albert are caught by the Romans. That's me doing a voice there. I don't know where that came from. It's kind of like Asterix because modern-ish things happen, but it's in an old Roman setting. It's all a bit daft. But it's all quite jolly. There's a bit where they go and see a Roman doctor. He makes them look at a optician's chart. So he says to Uncle Albert, "Read the letters on the wall," and Uncle Albert says, "What wall?"
And the optician's chart, the letters say "by the plug."
They do. She's lovely. That's great.
That's a nice joke.
But I just think it looks great. I mean, again, this is we always say, don't we, on this? In almost all cases, the artwork on these is brilliant. It almost always, there's going to be an example soon where this is not the case, but in general,
Any minute now.
Any
Keep
minute
listening.
now.
Keep listening. Keep plugging away.
but it just looks great. And then they've really made really full use of the ability to have full colour. So this is printed in a different way to normal comics. So on something like the Backstreet Kids and the Beano, the colour will be quite flat. But here there are shades of colour. I just think it looks gorgeous. It looks such a lovely thing. You think, well,
Yeah.
I know DC Thompson don't tend to do collections of old strips, but if they did, doing a collection of this could look really gorgeous. Could be a lovely thing.
Yeah, and I like the way that the title Ibar Gum is written as well, like it's coming out of the sky.
Yeah.
And I used to really love Asterix. I guess Asterix was big at this point.
Yeah,
as well.
it was, yeah.
I remember seeing cartoons of it when I went to see Disney films and all this sort of thing. Weetabix, Asterix, cards and things. So that was very much in people's minds. Really good idea. We like this page. We do like this page.
Shall we go and have a look at the page? We perhaps, I mean, I don't know. For the benefit of the tape, we've turned over the page and we're now looking at a strip called Eddie, Dairy and Randolph Rat, the original Dirty Rat. Now, John, I had some opinions about that page, but I don't want to influence you in any way.
Okay.
What did you think to the artwork on Eddie, Daring and Randolph Rat?
It's very distinctive.
It's distinctive.
It
It stands out, doesn't it?
It looks nothing like any other comic art I think I've seen in any of these comics.
I agree. The only place you can find any reference on this online, somebody said it looks like it would have fitted into very, very early Viz.
Yes, yes. I don't know, man. I found it hard to read.
Yeah, because I think what we're being very polite about is it looks bloody awful. It's terrible. Oh my god, how on earth did this get into the comic? There's some really, really great artists in this who are doing great stuff week in, week out. How on earth is something as terrible? This looks like somebody's drawn it bored at the back of a maths class one afternoon, doesn't it?
So what makes it to you like bad? I mean, to me, it looks different from everything else, but I can't work out if it's good or bad. Why would you say that it's particularly not good?
This is a very interesting question.
To me, it looks sort of all right.
Do you think
and
so?
It looks sort of different. It looks like maybe a kid.
It looks like
a kid might have drawn it.
It looks like a kid might have drawn it, doesn't it?
But there's a lot of detail going on here, but I'm just not quite sure if it's good or bad detail. It's probably not very good detail.
The composition is quite bad.
It's very crowded.
It's very, very crowded. There's big gaps in places. There's crowding in places. It does the thing where it's got text pointing to things.
It's hard to work out what's going on.
It is, yeah.
And how to get into it.
And all the characters are either full face on or exactly hot in profile, aren't they? And it's even got a weird thing where whoever did draw this, and I should say this is the only strip in this comic that I cannot find. I cannot find out who drew this. Probably because they didn't want anybody to know looking at it.
Okay.
And so there was another comic in Plug called Ava Banana, which only lasted 18 issues. This lasted 16 issues. Ava Banana lasted 18 issues. Ava Banana, I should say, also looked a bit like this, so it may have been the same artist. But it's like, it hasn't even got the page size right, because it's got big black stripes down the side to cover up the fact that it was drawn to the wrong page specification. I don't know what on earth is going on with this.
The humour is mad, but I don't know if it's probably not mad in a good way either. I mean, you've just suddenly got, for no reason, you've got 3 rugby commentators who all look the same. There's no explanation for it. They're just there.
No.
So there's no sense of like internal logic.
No.
I mean, there is a story, but there's no big punchline.
And it's like when it gets to the end, they suddenly have to squeeze in 2 extra panels in the corner of the second to last panel because they've run out of space for the story.
So when you said there was to me earlier that there was one page in this that you really weren't too happy with, was this it?
Oh, I hope so. I hope there's nothing worse than this.
I think there is.
Oh, what do you what do you think is worse than this one?
Well, let's see if we come to it. But first of all, you said you had a quick look at Tony Jackpot.
Tony Jackpot. Yeah, well, it was just as Tony Jackpot is about a character, and the humour comes from the fact that he's a caddy.
Yeah, and the play on words Tony Jacklin, Tony Jackpot. There's a really weird expression here where Tony Jackpot thinks to himself, what a mumper. What does that mean?
We're learning some new words today, aren't we?
I've never heard of that before.
What a mumper.
Yeah, because he's really fed up with the golfer that he's caddying for, and that is the word he chooses to describe him.
This is vocabulary lessons in this book, isn't there? But it lasted for 74 issues.
What Tony Jackpot did?
Yeah. Plug lasted for 75 issues. This ran from issues 1 to 74. I think the last issue would have had something else in it, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, 74 episodes, all about a small boy dealing with mumpers.
Stick it up your jumper. Now, we've got a nice big double-page spread of colour here, called Antchester United, the insect football team with all the talent and all the legs. I mean, that's a good idea, isn't it?
It's lovely. And this is drawn by John Gearing, so the artwork's so gorgeous, isn't it? It just looks lovely, this.
And it's got 2 very good sound effects in one panel down here. Not only does a horse exclaim, "Ooh-yah," at one point, but the sound of a ball hitting him on the head makes the noise zunk, which is pretty good. A pretty good noise. Zunk.
So where have they gone? So
they've gone to Hungary. It's a warm-up match, a World Cup warm-up match. The World Cup must have been happening around this time, because at the bottom of the page you've got this big badge and it says, start collecting these Super Goon World Cup badges. You can stick them on the wonderful World Cup chart we'll be printing later on. Super Goon World Cup badges? What do you mean?
I don't understand. And there's a picture of Plug wearing a sombrero pushed down over his big ears.
And it says Mexico.
Mexico.
So I'm not sure about that. But Antchester United, again, the story's a bit mad.
Yeah.
It's like this insect football team seems to be playing a load of gannets in Hungary. I'm not
So-
quite sure why they're playing gannets, but
Are the gannets tiny or are the insects huge? That is my question to you.
I'm not sure myself. There's all these bizarre references. There's one gannet called Alf Gannet that is like a parody of Alf Garnett. Did kids used to start and watch Alf Garnett in 1978? Maybe they did. Maybe they did. But again, a rather peculiar material.
And they all seem to be wearing Cossacks hats as well, don't they? All the gannets. And I don't know if that's something to do with Hungary, whereas that was what they did. They do the Hungary joke twice, so they're Hungary gannets. They're hungry. And then the next page they go slurp food, and then it says, "Here comes the Hungary team." And then one of the characters says, "Wow, they really do look hungry." It's like, yes, we've got it now.
Just in case you hadn't got it before. You wanted to talk about
The games gang.
The games gang.
So,
They're game for anything.
They're game for anything. So it's quite a strange strip, the games gang. It says they're game for anything, and I'm not really sure what is going on. But it seems to be they're a group of people who like games and will try any game.
Okay, yeah.
And then there's a character called Rollerball. I don't understand what's happening.
He's like this massive bloke.
He's a massive bloke, yeah. So he bursts into the games gang's, I assume the games gang's games room. I don't know.
Actually, he's not even on any sort of roller skates.
No, so
It's just called Rollerball.
so the character Rollerball is just called Rollerball. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And then
no, I don't understand why. Then there's a character called Melton John.
Melton John.
Yeah, that's a parody of Elton John, but why he's part of the games gang is not made clear.
Yeah, and there's another character called Magnus Spike, which is to be.
Yeah, what is he, the son of Magnus Pike? No, that wouldn't even
It
work.
wouldn't even work. But then, there are arrows pointing. But these weird. These are regular characters in this strip. So Magnus Spike and Melton John appear all the time in this strip. I know, I've looked it up.
Okay.
And yet they have arrows pointing to them so that we don't miss the joke that is there every single week. But then Rollerball bursts in, zaps him with his toy gun, and then they're all standing there motionless. So he panics, and they say, "Ha ha ha! Rollerball didn't realise we were playing at statues." Is that the kind of game they're playing? So they go, "Oh, let's all get together. Oh, what we're going to do? We're going to stand very still."
Yeah, let me join the games gang.
Basically, Rollerball is saying, "I've shot them with this hypno ray gun," which is just a toy. But then when he comes back, for a joke, they shoot the gun at him. And then he's so scared of it that he is frozen stiff and is carried away. St John's ambulance men, or equivalent, are able to carry him because we don't even need a stretcher.
I think the listeners at home need to read along with us on that one.
Yeah.
So that they get some inkling of what's going on.
Because I didn't get any inkling of what's going on.
Yeah. I think this is one of several pages that might actually be worse than, what was his name? I've forgotten. It's like
Eddie Daring.
Eddie Daring.
Oh,
Do you think this is worse than Eddie Daring?
No, I do not think this is worse than Eddie Daring. This is all right.
It's all right.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But if we're going to criticise these comics for not making sense, we might as well not bother doing anything.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's not really. That's not policy. That's not comics policy.
I'll refer you to the Funny Comics Fan Club terms and conditions, John.
But so what I want to come on to is Luncheon Vulture.
Luncheon Vulture.
Yes. Now, what do we know about Luncheon Vulture, Dr. Doom?
I have to admit, I must confess, I did spend ages going, why is he called Luncheon Vulture? What's that got to do with anything?
What is this concept? This concept is, I think we can safely say, abstract.
Well, no, because Luncheon Vulture is a pun
on Luncheon Vulture. Yes. He's a greedy vulture. Okay, let's delve into this a bit further. He's a Luncheon Vulture. He's a greedy so-and-so.
Yes.
But then you've got these other mad characters. I'm not quite sure what they've got to do with it. There's these two regular characters. One's a giant fish called Fanny Haddock.
Like it.
Based on Fanny Craddock, the chef at the time, or cook at the time. And you've also got a horse in a chef's outfit called the Galloping Gourmet. There was a TV show called The Galloping Gourmet. There was a famous chef of that name at the time. But one of them's a horse, one of them's a fish, the other one's a vulture. Okay, so there are animals involved. And then the story starts off, you've got this Fanny Haddock fishwoman standing on stage somewhere saying, our guest chef today is that well-known newsreader, Pilchard Baker.
A reference to Richard Baker, the newsreader at the time.
So the Luncheon Vulture is in the audience here saying, hope he makes something tasty. The rest of the audience consists of this horse chef Someone who looks like Eric Moore.
He does look Eric Moore, yeah.
And then a few normal people, but there are vultures and horses within the audience, and they're all looking at a giant fish on stage.
And of course, Pilchard Baker is not a pilchard.
He's not. He's very much a
He's a very human person.
a human man.
So, but I want to know is what happens? What happens when Fanny Haddock makes fish fingers or something? Does she have a terrifying moment of existential crisis when she realises what she's doing? When they have chicken, does the Luncheon Vulture what? How
does he react?
Luckily for this, they're making a sponge cake.
They are,
aren't they? So there are no chicken. It's got eggs in it, but luckily for everybody here, there were no chickens involved.
No,
so
no chickens or fish, so we can all breathe a sigh of relief. I hope you're reading along at home, listeners.
But then,
then Richard Baker, or Pilchard Baker, is known here.
Calling by his correct name. Yeah.
Here he comes, right?
There he is.
He sits behind a desk on stage at this cookery college, which is where they are apparently now. Yeah. It's complicated, isn't it? To sit behind a desk, he says, "Today at the cookery college, Mr. Pilchard Baker, a 50-year-old newscaster and chef, placed some sugar, eggs, butter and flour in a bowl. It is reported that after beating the contents briskly, he then placed the mixture in an oven," and the phone rings. Excuse me, by the way, he doesn't look a lot like Richard Baker.
He does. No.
"We have just heard that after half an hour in a moderate oven, a beautiful sponge has resulted." Someone shoves a sponge on. "What was that? Zoom and use flash?" "No, it's Luncheon Vulture, and he's pinched my sponge. Luckily, I have my rod handy. I am a newscaster after all." So he gets this fishing rod out and he catches Luncheon Vulture with it. Then there's a nutty picture here. Read along, listeners, and look at this picture. All it is a great big picture of a not very well drawn Richard Baker, just his head.
Yes.
And a load of lines in the background. That is the picture.
I think that's all right. It's quite dramatic, I thought.
I found that slightly abstract. And then nothing much happens after that. But the whole concept is bizarre.
It is bizarre. Well, again, going back to my earlier point, I noticed when he says, "I have my rod handy," he's getting out a fishing rod right in front of Fanny Haddock. Surely this is offensive to her people. Yeah. She's having a whale of a time. She's laughing away as he casts her, reminding her surely of the murder of all her family around her.
Yeah.
And then
good job. Wally Whale wasn't there to see it.
Exactly, yeah.
Or any of the other peculiar animal characters that occasionally turn up on this page.
Well, there's a bee, isn't it? There's a bee at the bottom, a normal-sized bee, not a gigantic bee.
That must be Barry Bee, the well-known chef bee thing.
And then Pilchard Baker is hitting. There's quite a bit of violence in this comic, isn't there? So not only has he hooked Luncheon Vulture on a hook, he's not hooking it. Then
he's smacking him on the wall.
Smacking him against the wall.
Yeah. Needless to say, this character didn't really catch on.
Didn't catch on with those, did he? I think.
But, it needs to be seen to be believed, I think we can say.
Indeed. And then sort of after that, well, I mean, there's a couple of... there's a strip...
This was the page I thought you meant when you said there's one page in here that is really terrible.
Oh, really?
This is the page I thought you meant. Supporting life.
Okay, yeah.
This page is like... after doing a bit of research, it turns out that this little kid is meant to be Plug's younger brother, Elvis. There's a story about they're in the Celtic FC trophy room and the cleaner's complaining about how many trophies she's got to clean. And then this bloke, Jock Stein, turns up who must be something to do with Celtic FC. There are all these arrows telling you to read this panel next and read that one. Don't go down, go round and then backwards.
It does go round and backwards, doesn't it? Yeah.
It's all badly put together. And then there's suddenly a photo of 3 people from Celtic FC or whatever it is in the middle of it, and very, very little happens.
Well, I guess it's supposed to be sort of informative. Yeah.
Informative.
There's some Glaswegian dialect, isn't there?
Yeah, they're taking the mickey out of this Glaswegian dialect.
Steez rabat, Jimmy, somebody says, which means do give me the ball fellow, does it? I don't know. Or Peter, can he understand a word was says?
So now this is turning into Viz.
Yes,
the whole page can be banished from the comic, in my view.
Yeah, they did it every week, didn't they? So there must be some research going. So they've gone through. It was every week. That means there must be 74 teams.
Did they do Plugton FC? Did they do Beano Town FC? Definitely not Beano Town FC. That's not mentioned here.
No,
they know more about Beano.
Exciting history, yeah.
And then we've got this double-page story: the invasion of the plug bugs.
This is crackers.
This is mad.
Yeah,
it's like just to read the. What would you call that? The heading here. The pongy plug bugs are fighting for survival on the moon against the clean living Nebs from the planet Nebulus. So then it's got all sorts of strange things going on, like a robot boxer called KOU2,
Yeah,
who seems to resemble Henry Cooper.
he does. Yeah. Or smash him all over.
Yeah.
It's always nice to have this, isn't it? Because it's an opportunity to bring out old impersonations that have been lying around.
Yeah, for 50 years.
How I long for Harold Wilson to guest spot in one of these stories.
That's next week, I think.
I distinctly hope so, my young friend.
Alongside the return of Mike Yarwood.
The plug bugs are like they
look like Plug.
They look a bit like Plug, but they've got antennae and they've only got one leg that they hop around.
Oh yeah, I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
How horrifying.
And they hop around in space with the Nebs, who I think have got big noses, or Nebs.
They look a bit like something out of Flash Gordon, the old Flash Gordon
They
series.
do, but then it's on the moon, except the moon appears to have trees on it and boxing rings.
Yeah,
somehow, and
it's
hockey
changed.
matches.
Maybe it was like that 50 years ago.
I suppose this is 50 years ago. Yeah.
You know, not much research done.
This is like an old Facebook group. It goes, oh yes, do you remember the moon when it used to have trees on it and not a phone to be seen? Everybody in the moment.
Now it's all rock and ice. What I found interesting about the end of this was that they're having a big boxing match, and one of the plug bugs has a boxing match with this evil robot.
Yeah.
You don't get to talk about this sort of thing normally, do you, during the day?
Really?
But in order to defeat the robot boxer, he simply takes his shoes off and waves his smelly feet at him, and the boxer faints. Now, this was exactly the same ending as a previous comic strip story we looked at in Nutty, I think.
It was, wasn't it? Yes.
Where it was exactly the same ending. So maybe that was influenced by this. Who knows?
Except in that one, where I believe it was the neighbour who was the slobs and the knobs or something.
The slobs and the shobs or something.
Slobs and
the clobs and the blobs.
But I think this is useful because in this day and age, when we're faced with the trauma and difficulties forthcoming of AI, it's good to know that if we ever need to defeat the Terminator, just wave your smelly sock at him.
It's got to be done. At least we discern something. We've got some knowledge out of this.
Yeah, we have.
We've done well here. Well, the comic ends with a nice comic strip from Plug, and verily we say to you that is the end of that particular issue.
So what did you think then? What was your overriding impression of Plug?
I don't know. I loved it at the time. Now I'm not sure what to think of it. I mean, I don't think I'd read it again.
I wouldn't want to read it again.
I mean, the sort of kind of humour is completely insane humour.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in some, what do these characters do on their day off? Or, in another comic, what are they doing? What other adventures are they having?
I like this comic, but I'd like it to be more dull, please. Less adventure.
I mean,
more shopping.
Now I'm going to take a good look at Barry, whatever they had, Eddie Daring. Now we know.
I think we could compare this comic to Nutty comic, because Nutty is also a DC Thompson comic where they've tried to be a bit crazy and mad. They've tried to go beyond the normal DC Thompson. Here's a boring thing.
Here's a very conventional thing.
Yeah,
this is anything but conventional.
It's not conventional. It's not boring.
It's inventive.
They're trying new things out.
They're creative. They're having a go.
There's lots of different ideas. It doesn't quite work.
No,
but it's exciting. I think it's exciting to see, and I think this is why this one sort of stays in the memory. Because I think, I do remember that.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just yet another here are some posh people and some. In fact, there is not a strip in this where posh people and poor people
have a fight.
Are in conflict. Yeah.
You're right.
There is no Hegelian analysis of history in Plug. That's probably why it only lasted 75 issues.
That's going to be the byline for this episode, by the way. Hegelian. What did you say?
An Hegelian analysis of history. I think it.
Yeah. Let's have that in brackets.
There's no dialectic, is the John? That's what you're saying. There's no dialectic.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I didn't like to bring it up, but I think at the end of the day, Brian, it's pretty good fun.
It's enjoyable, isn't it? So what do you think? What were your two? What are your
20 pages though? It's thin rule.
But go on, give it a go. What two ones do you think? What do you think the two best ones?
Well, Plug is the best because he's such a great character. Even though he's become the sporting personage, I still love Plug. So he's number one, and number two. Let me just look through it quickly. Luncheon Vulture. This movie is so blooming weird. It's got Richard Baker in it. It's got a large woman dressed as a sort of chef that's a fish.
A large woman who is a fish.
It's really mad.
It's really mad, isn't it?
So I like that. How about yourself?
I would go for Ebagum just because it looks so gorgeous. It just looks so good, and I think it's really exciting to see somebody like Albert Holroyd, isn't it, who did it? It's lovely to see somebody who's got a long career in British comics being able to use colour in that way and experiment and do something that's gorgeous. I really like that one. My second choice, oh crumbs, is might be the Invasion of the Plug Bugs.
Oh yeah,
so crazy.
I hope I didn't. I hope we looked at that in sufficient detail. I tell you what, it's like I could see this being a bit more like Cheeky Weekly, with like following the adventures of Plug.
Yeah,
throughout the week and seeing what else he did.
that would work. Yeah,
I would have liked to have seen more of what he was doing.
Oh, I see. So when you say you want to see what characters do on the day off, it's like Cheeky.
Yeah.
Except
what they're doing during the week.
Except that Cheeky never has a day off, so that's just
true. Yeah,
asking him to labour. And what was the worst one for you?
He looks a little bit like Cheeky if you squint.
He does.
The worst one. Well, that's tricky. Very, very tricky.
It's got to be Eddie Dairy.
You think Eddie Dairy?
I think it's terrible, Eddie Dairy. At least Supporting Life has got some facts and figures in it.
I don't like the Games Gang. To be quite honest with you, the Games Gang they can just sod off. What is it?
Put your games away. Off you go.
Maybe if a compilation of the Games Gang came out, I could get more of an idea of what the hell it is.
A heavily bound volume of all 74 episodes of the Games Gang.
It's not going to be a big seller.
So I think in conclusion we would say the Plug. It's a brave. It is.
It's a brave attempt at something.
It is, which I think we must salute them for doing. It doesn't really come off.
No.
Because some of these strips did then go on to be in the Beezer, didn't they? So they did carry on have a life afterwards.
And Plug's still going. Plug still exists.
Plug still exists in the Beezer, doesn't he? Yeah,
very much still exists.
Yeah.
I think they could make a lot more of him. Actually, I think he's a great character.
Yeah. But I think it's interesting. It's sort of like an attempt at a different route through comics that didn't take off.
Yeah.
For very obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting too.
Yeah. And don't forget, next time we'll be doing another episode about Plug comic.
No, we will not.
Only joking.
No.
Only joking.
Next time we'll be doing it. Next time we're going to be looking at another comic with a lead character again. I now notice it. Next time we're going to be looking at Buster comic.
Wow.
Buster from 1981.
There's a lot of history to this chap.
There certainly is. The great survivor of British comics is Buster.
Terrific. I look forward to that.
And I hope you, listeners, will look forward to it too. Oh, I'm going to do a proper podcast thing. You ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
If you've enjoyed listening to Funny Comics Fan Club, please do like it, subscribe to it, and tell other people about it. That's what you're supposed to say.
Look at you being all professional.
And if you'd like to be part of our Patreon, we don't have one.
But, set one up.
No, that doesn't work, does it?
Oh, no, probably not. No, because then they get all the money.
What would you have? I just sort of think if you had a Patreon, then you could get even more of this nonsense.
Oh, yeah.
Who would want that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We would come round to your house. That's what happens.
Obviously, if we ever do set one up, I'll have to come back and edit this episode, so it's not me slagging them off, but there you go.
Yes, exactly. But, yes, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And don't forget, tune in next time.
Bye.